I hope you're excited for your next coding challenge. So let's jump right in. And this time we have a different coding challenge. So this time we have two gymnastics teams called the Dolphins and the Koalas. And they compete against each other 3 times. Then the team with the highest average score is the winner and wins a trophy. So here are your tasks. First, you should calculate the average score for each of the teams using the test data below. So this test data right here. Okay. Then compare the team's average scores to determine the winner of the competition and also print it to the console. Now there might be a draw between the teams, which means that they have the same average score. So you need to test for that situation as well. So this is the basic challenge, and I think this will be great to test the knowledge that you gained over the last couple of videos. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and make it a bit more difficult, you can try out the bonus 1 and bonus 2. So let's take a look at these. So bonus 1 is to include a requirement for a minimum score of 100. So what this means is that a team only wins if it has a higher score than the other team and at the same time a score of at least 100 points. And to help you solving this one, I'm giving you the hint of using a logical operator to test for the minimum score of 100 points. Also, you will probably need multiple else-if blocks. All right? Now, the second bonus here is that the minimum score also applies to a draw. So a draw only happens when both teams have the same score and both have a score greater or equal 100 points. And otherwise, no team at all wins the trophy. All right? And then here you have actually the test data for bonus 1 and for bonus 2. And you can, of course, play around with these scores and change them to match all the different scenarios. Okay? So these are not static. They're just some initial values that make sense. But from there, feel free to change them. So the first two are the easier ones. And for these, you use this test data. Then, to make it a bit more difficult, you can do bonus 2 and bonus 1, and for that you use these 2 test data sets. All right. Now, if one of the bonuses turns out to be too hard for you, then just don't do it. It's perfectly fine. Okay. What matters is that you don't become frustrated. The goal here is really just to test the stuff that we did before, and absolutely not to get you frustrated and thinking that coding might not be for you. Okay. And again, don't focus on writing efficient or optimized code at this point. All we want here is to learn programming and to learn JavaScript. So just make it work, and yeah, that's it for instructions about this challenge. So pause the video now, and I see you in a second. Okay, hopefully you managed to complete at least point 1 and point 2. And so let's start by solving these two. So number 1 is calculating the average of both teams. So let's create one variable for each. So score Dolphins. And so to calculate the average, we simply add up all the 3 scores and then divide it by 3. So we already did something similar before. So that's 96 plus 108 plus 89. And then divided by 3. And we need these parentheses so that these plus operations are executed first, because the grouping, so the parentheses, have a higher precedence. Okay, score koalas is 88 plus 91 plus 110. And again, divided by 3. And now let's quickly log both to the console here. Score Dolphins and score koalas. Okay, so they're pretty close, but the Dolphins have a little bit higher of an average. And so that's what we're working on in point 2, where we're going to compare the average of both teams. So we are going to use an if statement, or if else probably. So score dolphins, if it's greater than score koalas, then log to the console, dolphins win the trophy. And we can get fancy here with some emoji. Let's see if we got one. Ah, that's the one I'm looking for. But of course, once more, you don't need to worry about this part. Let's just copy this for the next one. So else, and actually we are going to use an else if because of the draw. But let's talk about that one later. So if the score of the koalas is greater than score dolphins, then we're going to print the opposite, so that koalas win the trophy. And finally, else if score dolphins is equal to score koalas, then we can simply say that no one wins the trophy, or actually both win the trophy. Okay, so let's test that. And indeed, we get that the dolphins win the trophy. And that's because, as we know, this value is greater. And so actually this first condition here turns out to be true right away. And so this block of code here gets executed. Now let's just quickly increase the score of the koalas here. Let's say 100, just to see if the second part also works. And indeed, now the koalas win the trophy. Okay, but let's put it back here. And here you could have actually done it in another way. So you could have done score dolphins less than score koalas. So basically write the same as here, but instead of the greater, you would have used the less than. So that's the exact same thing, and both are equally valid. Then here in the last part, actually we wouldn't even have needed this part, so that the score of dolphins is equal to score of koalas, because that's actually the only scenario that's left given these previous two conditions. So basically, if none of these here were true, really the only thing possible would be that they had the same score. And so a simple else block would have been enough here. But anyway, this works just fine too. And so again, what matters is that you made it work, even if you did some things differently. For example, you could have stored the conditions in separate Boolean variables, or you could have structured the if-else statement in some different way. But if you got the same result that we just saw here, then congratulations. That's a great work. Well done, really. So maybe you even made it to bonus number 1 and 2. And so let me solve them here now as well. So let's start by calculating the average. So this is going to be bonus 1. And yeah, let's copy this one too. Let's copy this one. Let's copy this one. So I should have done it all in one go, so that we can now comment out this first part. So for test number 1, this should be 97. Then the second one should be 112 and 101. And for the koalas, we have 109, 95, and 123. Let's just quickly test. And so right now the koalas win the trophy. So for now, everything works the same. But now we need to include this important condition here, which is that with this rule, a team only wins if it has a higher score than the other team, which we already have, and at the same time a score of at least 100 points. Okay, easy enough. So in this case, the dolphins win. Okay, but now we also need to ensure that the dolphins have a score higher or equal 100. So let's just say that. So dolphins need to have a higher score than koalas, and score dolphins needs to be greater or equal 100. And that's it. That's all we need for this requirement. And then the same thing here. So this is the scenario where the koalas win. So for the koalas to win, they need to have a higher score than the dolphins, and at the same time, they need to have at least 100 points. So just like before, greater or equal 100. And so once more, we used a logical operator here to model this situation, essentially. Okay, and actually, I think with this, we implemented this bonus number 1. So let's try that again. And right now, of course, it still works because both have a score higher than 100. But let's change that now here, according to test data 2, to 106. So 106. And now they both win the trophy. So let's actually decrease all of these points like by 20. So let's make it 81 and 86. So the average should still be the same now. Yeah, but they're both below 100 now. And so this brings us to bonus number 2 that says that the minimum score should also apply to a draw. So a draw only happens when both teams have the same score and both a score greater or equal 100 points. Okay, and otherwise no team wins the trophy. So that's important too. So let's translate that. So to be a draw, the score needs to be the same, which we already have, and the score of dolphins needs to be greater or equal 100, and the score of koalas needs to be greater or equal 100. Okay, and else, well, then we can say that no one wins the trophy. And let's just add some sad emoji here. Okay, let's try that. And now we get that no one wins the trophy. Okay. So that's because their scores are now below 100. And so we actually entered this last case here. But if we go back to the averages that we had before, so 106 and 101, let's see. And now both win the trophy because they have the same amount of points and they both have a number of points above 100. And so that's exactly what we have here. So same points, dolphins have over or at least 100 points, and koalas have at least 100 points. And so in this case, both win the trophy. Finally, let's also test the scenario in which both have below, but the dolphins have a little bit more. Let's put this one here at 80. And so now we see that the dolphins have 96 points, and the koalas have 84, but still no one wins the trophy. And that's because the dolphins have more than the koalas. So this part of the requirement is true, but they do not have over 100. So this part here is false, okay? And so true, this first part here is true, and the second part is false. And true and false gives false. And so then all of these are skipped because they're also obviously false. And so we go straight to this last block. And so no one wins the trophy, which is exactly what we were expecting as a result here. Okay. Now, if you didn't manage to do this here, again, don't worry, because I know that this is a little bit complicated already. And so in case you managed to successfully complete this challenge, then a huge congratulations to you. Well done. But if for some reason you were not able to complete the challenge, then don't worry all too much about it. You can always go back to the lectures where we first learned about these topics, and you can, of course, after this video, also review the code a little bit more carefully to make sure 100% that you understand, especially this last example that we just worked on. Okay? But anyway, great job in completing this challenge. And now I see you in the next video.